Claire Morgan stood on the observation deck of Outpost Kestrel, looking at the stars. The stars were bright but far away, like tiny fires in the dark. The silence of space was quiet, almost peaceful, but Claire knew peace never lasted for long. She had learned that the hard way. Outpost Kestrel was a small base at the edge of human space. It was built on a barren moon with rocky hills and thin air. The base itself was simple but strong, made to hold a small human garrison and keep watch over the border. From here, humans could see the Zorth Dominion's patrols before they reached the human colonies. It was quiet except when alarms sounded. Claire turned from the window. Her boots clicked on the metal floor as she walked down the hall. Soldiers passed her, nodding respectfully. Claire was not just a general. She was a symbol. Humans admired her calm mind and careful planning, and her enemies feared her. "General Morgan," said Captain Daniel Brooks, stepping forward. He held a tablet in his hand, his face serious. "We received a new message from command." Claire took the tablet and read it. Her eyes narrowed slightly. The message was simple, almost a warning. The Galaxy King had sent assassins. 7 of them. Each one was a master killer, trained to destroy without mercy. Their mission was clear: find Claire Morgan and kill her. Claire put the tablet down and smiled faintly. "They are coming for me?" she asked quietly. Daniel nodded. "Yes, General. They know your victories. The King wants to end your career before humans gain more strength." Claire turned back to the window. The barren hills of the moon stretched out under the pale light of a distant sun. "Let them come," she said softly. "They will see that humans do not run." Lieutenant Laura Hill, who had been standing behind Daniel, looked worried. "General, we should evacuate the civilians. They cannot fight these assassins. They would not survive." "I know," Claire said. "And that is why we will make sure they leave safely." "But I am not leaving. If the King wants me, he will find me here." The 2 officers shared a glance. They had served under Claire for years, and they trusted her judgment. Still, the thought of facing 7 of the deadliest killers in the galaxy was frightening. But Claire had always been fearless. That was why she had earned her rank, why humans trusted her, and why aliens feared her. Over the next few hours, Claire walked through the outpost, giving orders. Soldiers prepared the perimeter with traps and sensors. The evacuation teams left to bring civilians to safe zones. Claire oversaw everything, making sure each step was precise. She spoke to no one without purpose, and her calm voice carried authority. She went to the armory next. The walls were lined with weapons of all kinds. Energy rifles, plasma grenades, and combat knives hung in neat rows. Claire selected a few weapons carefully. She did not need all the weapons. She knew that sometimes less was more. A gun, a knife, and her mind would be enough. Daniel noticed her preparation. "General, are you sure we are ready?" 7 assassins are more than anyone can handle. Claire turned to him. "I have faced more than 7 enemies before. Strategy and patience matter more than numbers. They will make mistakes. We will use them against themselves." Laura watched quietly. She had trained for combat her whole life, but she had never seen Claire so calm. The general moved like she had already calculated every step the assassins would take, like she could see their arrival before it happened. The next day, the first signs of the assassins appeared. A scout ship appeared on the horizon, small and fast. It moved in silence, avoiding detection by sensors. Claire did not panic. She walked to the command center, where monitors displayed every movement near the base. "The first one is here," she said. Daniel and Laura looked at the screen. The scout ship dropped a small pod onto the moon's surface. The pod opened and a figure stepped out. It was tall, covered in armor that shimmered like water, and carried weapons Claire had never seen before. The assassins moved carefully, slowly, like hunters stalking prey. But they did not know the terrain. They did not know the traps Claire had prepared. And most of all, they underestimated her. The first encounter was quick. The assassin moved toward the main hall, but the floor beneath him was rigged. A trapdoor opened, and the assassin fell into a pit filled with spikes and sensors. Claire watched silently from the command center. It was not cruel. It was necessary. 1 down. 6 more to go. Over the next hours, the other assassins arrived. They came from different directions, each using their unique skills. One could move invisibly, another could control machines, another had strength far beyond a human. But Claire had planned for all of them. Every sensor, every trap, every obstacle was designed to slow them down, confuse them, and force them into mistakes. She moved through the base like a shadow, giving orders and setting traps in real time. Daniel and Laura followed, amazed at her focus. She did not yell, she did not panic. She simply moved with precision, predicting the assassins' actions before they happened. At night, the base was quiet again. Claire walked on the observation deck looking at the stars. The assassins had failed to reach her. One after another, they had fallen into traps, been lured into dangerous terrain, or faced soldiers who were ready to fight. "General," Daniel said, standing beside her, "they are skilled. How can we keep going like this?" Claire looked at him and smiled faintly. "Because humans are not just skilled, Daniel. We are clever, we adapt. They may be killers, but we are survivors. And I'm not afraid of them." Laura joined them, wrapping her jacket around her shoulders. "You make it sound easy, General. But we are lucky you are on our side. The humans would not survive without you." Claire shook her head. "No, Laura, humans will survive because we do not give up. We fight, we protect what is ours. That is why I am here. That is why I do not run." The next day, the assassins tried a new tactic. Two of them moved together, faster and more coordinated than before. They hoped to catch Claire off guard. But Claire had anticipated this. She waited for them in a narrow canyon near the base. When the assassins entered the canyon, traps activated. Netting fell from above, restraining one. Claire fired a precise shot that disabled the other. Neither had expected human weapons to be so accurate or so deadly. Both fell, stunned and defeated. Daniel and Laura arrived moments later. "General, that was incredible," Laura said, helping tie the assassins. Claire knelt down, looking at them. "Do not underestimate humans," she said quietly. "That is the mistake everyone makes. We are small in number, but we are strong. We are clever, and we do not give up." As night fell again, Claire returned to her quarters. She sat by the small window looking at the stars. Her mind was calm, but she was always thinking. The assassins had failed so far, but more would come. She had to be ready. Outside, the moon was silent. No wind, no sound, just the cold light of distant suns. Claire felt the weight of responsibility, but she did not fear it. Fear was for those who could not face the truth. She faced the truth every day. Humans were strong. Humans would fight, and humans would survive. The next morning, Claire gathered her officers. Daniel, Laura, and the other soldiers stood in a circle. Claire spoke clearly and firmly. "The king thinks sending killers will make humans afraid. He is wrong. They think one person can be broken. They are wrong. One person can make a difference. And I will make sure the galaxy remembers that humans do not run. If they come for me, they will find that humans fight back. And we will fight hard." Daniel and Laura nodded. The soldiers around them understood. Fear was natural, but courage was stronger. They were ready to follow Claire anywhere. Far away in the dark palace of the Galaxy King, Varkul received reports. 7 assassins sent to kill the human general. No one returned. One by one, the assassins had fallen. The king's anger grew, but so did his fear. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous. And one human woman, Claire Morgan, was already proving that she could not be stopped. Back on the moon, Claire walked once more on the observation deck. The stars shone cold and distant, but she felt a fire inside her. She was not afraid. Humans had survived worse, and they would survive this too. The assassins were only the beginning. Claire turned back to the base. Soldiers were ready, traps were set, and she had a plan. The Galaxy King thought he could send killers and end her life. He was wrong. Humans did not run. Humans fought. And she would fight harder than anyone expected. The first part of the war was just beginning, and Claire Morgan was ready. The galaxy might watch, but she did not care. Humans had faced impossible odds before. They would face them again, and they would survive. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the first of the assassins lay defeated, unaware that their deaths would only make humanity stronger. The morning sun rose slowly over the barren hills of the moon. Its pale light reflected off the rocks, casting long shadows that stretched across the outpost kestrel. Claire Morgan walked along the edge of the base, inspecting the perimeter. Every trap, every sensor, and every defensive post had to be perfect. She did not leave anything to chance. Daniel Brooks and Laura Hill followed her closely. Daniel carried a tablet with sensor readings, and Laura held a small energy rifle, ready for anything. Both of them had learned by now that Claire's calm was not weakness. It was preparation. The scouts are still out there. Daniel said quietly. We have no idea where the next assassin might strike. Claire nodded. Then we make sure we control every approach. They think they are hunting me. They are wrong. They are the prey. Laura shivered slightly. She had seen the reports of the assassins. Some of them had killed entire fleets by themselves. One could move silently. Another could crush steel walls with bare hands. But Claire had already faced the first attacks, and the assassins were not as clever as she was. The first of the new assassins approached under the cover of dust storms. The moon was not entirely empty. Rocky cliffs and shallow canyons gave them places to hide. Claire watched the sensors closely. She could see the faint heat signatures moving across the hills. 2 of them, she said, her eyes narrowing. They are working together. Daniel looked at her. They are fast, General. If they reach the base? They will not, Claire interrupted. Watch and learn. The 2 assassins moved quickly, using the hills for cover. They had studied the base from a distance and thought they had found a weak point. But Claire had anticipated this. She had set motion traps, sound sensors, and pressure plates along the path they would take. The first assassin stepped on a false rock. A net shot out from a hidden launcher and wrapped him tightly. The second tried to back away but triggered a tripwire. A loud alarm echoed across the moon, startling them both. The soldiers on patrol rushed out from their posts, ready to confront them. Claire stayed in the command center, watching every movement on the screen. She saw the assassins struggle. They were strong, but the trap slowed them down. One slipped into a pit hidden under loose gravel. The other tried to jump over it but landed in another trap, a small energy field that stunned him temporarily. Good, Claire said quietly. Keep moving. Keep them in our control. The soldiers moved carefully, surrounding the assassins. Laura aimed her rifle, ready to fire. Claire picked up her sidearm, her calm hand steady. She knew the assassins were dangerous, but she had planned for every possible outcome. Ready, she said. Wait for my signal. When the assassins struggled to free themselves, Claire pressed a button. A small panel opened above the pit, releasing a cloud of blinding gas. The soldiers moved in immediately. The first assassin dropped, and the second fell after a few tense moments. Both were captured without serious injuries to the human soldiers. Daniel and Laura exhaled with relief. That was too close, Daniel said. Claire shook her head. Close is normal. Victory is what matters. They learned something today. Humans fight smart. That lesson will cost them. The prisoners were placed in secure cells. Claire examined them carefully. She wanted to understand how they thought, how they moved. Every assassin had a weakness, and she intended to find it. Meanwhile, the remaining assassins were preparing their next attack. They were communicating with each other through encrypted channels, trying to coordinate. One assassin was from a planet with extreme gravity. He could crush metal with his hands. Another could move almost invisible to human eyes. Each was deadly, and each thought they could succeed where the others had failed. Claire did not underestimate them. She studied every detail. She watched simulations, analyzed their tactics, and planned the next trap. Her soldiers worked tirelessly, laying sensors, preparing ambush points, and securing the civilians who had been moved to safe zones. The next night, the assassins struck again. This time, they came in from the cliffs above the base. The wind was strong, carrying dust and noise that almost covered their movement. Claire monitored them from the command center. They are coordinated, she said, but they are predictable. Watch the left ridge. Daniel nodded and activated a sensor field along the ridge. The first assassin stepped into the field, triggering a series of alarms and flashing lights. He tried to hide, but the lights revealed him to the soldiers waiting below. Laura fired a precise shot that disabled his weapon. Another soldier moved quickly, using a grappling line to pull the assassin down safely. Claire watched, satisfied. One more enemy defeated. The remaining assassins reacted quickly. They used speed and cunning to approach the base from a different angle. Claire smiled faintly. She had expected this. She had left one path unprotected, knowing they would take it. It was a trap, a clever way to teach them overconfidence. The assassins entered the canyon she had prepared. Rocks had been shifted, and energy barriers hidden in the sand were ready. The ground beneath them collapsed in sections, separating them and forcing them into narrow paths. Claire's soldiers waited patiently, hidden from sight. One assassin tried to climb a cliff to reach the main gate. A small explosive device triggered under his feet, sending him sliding back into a net. Another tried to run across the canyon floor. Claire activated a sensor-controlled turret that forced him to stop. He tried to fight, but the human soldiers moved like shadows, quiet and deadly. Claire stayed in the command center, giving orders calmly. Focus fire on the exposed one. Do not risk your life unnecessarily. Trap the other in the canyon. Keep control at all times. Minutes later, both assassins were neutralized. They were not killed, but they were captured, trapped in stasis nets that prevented movement. Claire studied them carefully, learning their weaknesses and preparing for what came next. After the attack, the soldiers gathered around Claire. "General, we are ready for whatever comes next," Laura said. Claire nodded. "Good. But remember, we are not just defending ourselves. We are teaching a lesson. The Galaxy King thinks he can scare humans. He is wrong. Humans do not run. We fight, and we fight smart." Daniel looked at her. "Do you think they will stop coming?" Claire shook her head. "No, there will always be more. But each time they come, we become stronger. Each failure teaches them fear, and that fear will spread." The next morning, Claire walked outside the base. The moon was quiet, almost peaceful. But she knew the calm would not last. The assassins would regroup, plan new attacks, and try again. She welcomed it. Every attack gave her more information, more opportunity to prepare, more reason to prove that humans were not weak. Her soldiers watched her. They felt inspired. Claire Morgan was more than a general. She was a symbol of human strength. They knew that with her leading them, they could survive anything. Far away, the Galaxy King Varkul received the report. 7 assassins sent. None returned. One by one, they had failed. His anger grew, but so did a strange sense of fear. Humans were unpredictable. Humans did not follow the rules of war that the Dominion used. And one human woman, Claire Morgan, was already proving herself unstoppable. Back at the base, Claire gathered her officers again. "The assassins will not give up," she said. "They will try new tactics, new weapons. But we are ready. We will continue to fight smart, to protect our people and to show that humans cannot be intimidated. Remember, victory is not just defeating them. Victory is showing the galaxy who we are." The soldiers nodded, renewed determination in their eyes. They had seen their general in action. They had seen her face fear and danger and remain calm. They knew she would lead them to victory no matter the odds. That night, Claire returned to the observation deck. She looked at the stars, thinking of the humans across the galaxy. She thought of the colonies, the soldiers, the civilians who depended on their strength and courage. She thought of the Galaxy King and his assassins, and she felt a quiet confidence. Humans were strong. Humans were clever. Humans did not run. And she, Claire Morgan, would make sure the galaxy never forgot it. The stars shone cold and distant, but inside Claire a fire burned. A fire of determination, courage, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The war was far from over, but humans had already shown that they could survive, fight and win, and in the shadows of space, the remaining assassins prepared for their next attempt. Unaware that each step they took only strengthened the resolve of their enemy, Claire Morgan would be ready. Humans would be ready, and the galaxy would remember that humans did not give up. The moon was quiet under a pale light. The rocky hills and canyons cast long shadows across the ground. Outpost Kestrel stood strong, surrounded by sensors, traps, and soldiers. But Claire Morgan knew the quiet was dangerous. The assassins were still out there. Only 2 remained. They were the Threxian twins, feared across the galaxy. Unlike the others, they worked together perfectly. Their movements were swift and precise. They had studied Claire's tactics and learned from the failures of their companions. They were clever, strong, and deadly, and they were coming for her. Claire stood on the observation deck, her eyes scanning the horizon. Daniel Brooks and Laura Hill joined her, both tense and ready. "They are different," Daniel said. "These 2 are not like the others. They are fast and they learn from mistakes." "I know," Claire said quietly. "That is why we fight differently. The rules of battle have changed. They think speed and strength can win, but we have brains, strategy, and patience." She walked down to the command center. The soldiers were at their stations, checking weapons, monitoring sensors, and preparing traps. Every detail had to be perfect. The Threxians could not be allowed to reach the main base. "General, we have movement," Laura said. "They are approaching from the North Ridge." Claire looked at the screen. The twin assassins moved in unison, almost invisible in the rocky terrain. Their shadows barely showed against the rocks. "Good," Claire said. "They are predictable. Lead them where we want. She activated a series of traps along the ridge. Hidden nets, energy snares, and pressure-triggered explosives waited for the twins. Claire knew they would avoid obvious dangers, so she made everything subtle. Every rock, every patch of sand, every shadow was part of the plan. The twins reached the first trap. One stepped onto a thin wire stretched across a small gap. A net shot up and wrapped him tightly. He struggled, but Claire had prepared for his strength. Metal spikes hidden in the net kept him immobilized without serious injury. The second twin reacted immediately. He jumped over the net, landing on solid ground. Claire had expected this. Another trap, hidden behind a rock, caught him. A blinding flash of light and a loud sound disoriented him. He fell to the ground, rolling to recover. Claire remained calm, giving orders quietly. Focus on slowing them. Do not engage directly yet. Make them make mistakes. The twins moved faster now. They realized they were being led. But the traps were carefully designed. One false step, and they would be caught again. Claire watched the sensors, predicting every movement. Divide them, she whispered. Separate them and we will control the fight. The twins entered a narrow canyon. Rocks had been shifted and the ground was uneven. Claire had prepared for this. Sections of the canyon floor were rigged with pressure plates. One twin stepped on a plate and a small rock slide blocked his path. The other twin tried to help him, but another trap triggered, sending him sliding into a pit. Claire's soldiers moved silently, surrounding the trapped twins. Do not underestimate them, she said. They are dangerous even when caught. Keep your distance and control the fight. Daniel and Laura watched as the soldiers moved. The twins struggled, using their strength to break free, but the traps were strong. They could not escape without risk. Claire had anticipated this. Every move they made was part of the plan. Hours passed. The twins grew frustrated. They were fast, strong, and clever, but humans had prepared for them. Claire had studied their behavior, learned their tactics, and created a battlefield that favored her. Finally, one twin broke free. He ran toward the base, hoping to reach Claire directly. The other twin followed, climbing the canyon walls. Claire knew this was the moment. She had prepared a final trap, the most dangerous and clever of all. She went outside herself, walking calmly into the open area where the twins would appear. Daniel and Laura followed, weapons ready. Claire carried only her sidearm and a knife, confident in her skill and strategy. The first twin appeared at the edge of the canyon, moving quickly toward Claire. She waited until he was close, then fired her sidearm. The shot was precise, aimed to disable rather than kill. The twin fell but recovered quickly. The second twin jumped down from the canyon wall, landing behind the first. Claire moved quickly, using the terrain to her advantage. She led them toward a narrow passage she had prepared. The walls were close, the ground uneven, and traps hidden everywhere. The twins tried to attack together. Their strength was incredible, but the narrow passage limited their movement. Claire used this to her advantage. She dodged, rolled, and struck with her knife. One twin was wounded, but not seriously. The other tried to strike her, but she sidestepped, leading him into a trap. A section of the wall shifted, releasing a net that wrapped around the second twin. He struggled but could not free himself. The first twin, seeing his companion trapped, paused. Claire took this moment. She moved quickly, using a small mirror to reflect sunlight into his eyes. He was blinded for a moment, and she struck again with her knife. Both twins were now trapped, caught in nets, and immobilized. Claire stood in the narrow passage, breathing steadily. Her clothes were dusty, her hands slightly bloody, but she was calm. She had faced two of the deadliest assassins in the galaxy and defeated them. Daniel and Laura moved forward.
General, are they...
Daniel began. They are under control, Claire said. Do not harm them. We will learn from them. But for now, they are finished. The soldiers secured the twins, placing them in stasis nets that would keep them immobilized until they could be studied. Claire looked at them carefully. They had been strong, clever, and dangerous. But humans had been smarter, stronger in ways that the galaxy often underestimated. Back at the command center, Claire analyzed the twins' data. Their tactics, strengths, and weaknesses were all recorded. She studied them closely, preparing for what came next. The Galaxy King would not stop sending enemies. He would learn from these failures and try again. But Claire was ready. The night was quiet again. The stars shone cold and distant. Claire walked to the observation deck, looking at the moon below. The base was safe for now. Her soldiers were alert, ready, and confident. The assassins had failed and humanity had won another battle. Laura joined her. "General, do you think they will send more?" Claire shook her head slightly. "Yes, they always do. But each time they come, we become stronger. Each failure teaches them fear. And that fear will spread. The Galaxy King will learn that humans do not run. We fight, and we fight smarter than anyone expects," Daniel added. "You make it sound simple, General. But the twins, they were almost impossible." Claire smiled faintly. "Nothing is impossible if you are prepared, Daniel. Humans have survived impossible odds before. We will survive this too. And more than survive, when we will make them regret underestimating us." The next day, Claire ordered preparations for the final step. She wanted to make a message for the Galaxy King. The assassins had been defeated, but their heads would serve as a warning, not out of cruelty, but to show that humans could not be intimidated. The heads of the 7 assassins were carefully prepared and placed in stasis containers. Each container was sealed, cleaned, and labeled. Claire added a small note to the last container, written in her hand. "Next time, send an army." Daniel and Laura watched as she completed the task. They understood the significance. The message was clear. Humans fought not just to survive, but to show the galaxy that they could not be controlled through fear. Once the preparations were complete, the containers were ready to be sent to the Dominion. Claire gave orders to the human transport ships. They would deliver the heads directly to the palace of Galaxy King Varkul. The king would see the consequences of his actions. As the ships left the moon, Claire returned to the observation deck. The stars shone brightly, reflecting in her eyes. She thought of the humans across the galaxy, the soldiers, the civilians, and the colonies. She thought of the battles yet to come and the enemies yet to arrive. Humans were strong. Humans were clever. Humans did not give up. And she, Claire Morgan, would make sure the galaxy never forgot it. The stars were cold and distant, but inside Claire burned a fire of determination, courage, and unbroken spirit. The assassins had come, the deadliest of them all, and humans had survived. They had not run. They had fought. And they would fight again. Somewhere in the dark reaches of space, the Galaxy King learned of the twins' defeat. Panic and fear began to grow in his court. Humans had proven themselves unstoppable. One human woman had defeated 7 of his best assassins, and the message was clear. The Galaxy King could not intimidate humans. Back on Outpost Kestrel, Claire looked at the stars once more. She knew more challenges would come, more enemies would arrive, and more battles would be fought. But she also knew humans had a strength that the galaxy underestimated, a strength that came from courage, intelligence, and determination. And as the night continued, she smiled quietly. The first part of humanity's story in this battle was over. The next part had just begun. The transport ships left Outpost Kestrel slowly, carrying 7 stasis containers. Each container held the head of an assassin, defeated by Claire Morgan and her soldiers. The heads were sealed in cryogenic stasis, preserved perfectly. Claire had spent hours making sure each was cleaned and labeled. A small note was attached to the last container. In clear handwriting it read, "Next time, send an army." Claire watched the ships disappear into the blackness of space. Daniel Brooks and Laura Hill stood beside her, silent for a moment. The weight of what they had done settled on them. This was more than victory. It was a statement. Humans had survived impossible odds. Humans had not run. Humans had fought. Laura finally spoke. "General, do you think the king will understand?" Claire shook her head. "He may not. But the galaxy will. Humans are not afraid. Humans cannot be controlled through fear. He sent killers to intimidate us. We sent them back." Daniel looked out at the stars. "It feels strange. Sending their heads back. It is like we are showing him the power of humans." Claire nodded. "Exactly. It is not cruelty. It is a message. If the Galaxy King thinks humans can be scared, he is wrong. This is a warning, a lesson, and one that cannot be ignored." Far away, the palace of Galaxy King Varkul was dark and cold. Guards patrolled the halls, moving quietly. Servants and advisors whispered among themselves, uneasy. A transmission arrived. 7 large crates were being delivered to the palace. The king's personal courier examined them quickly and brought them to the throne room. Varkul was seated on his throne, tall and imposing, but even he could not hide the tension in his posture. The courier opened the first container. Inside was the head of an assassin, preserved perfectly. Silence filled the throne room. The court stared, unable to speak. One by one, the crates were opened. Each head was revealed, and each one reminded the court of the humans' power. The assassins were dead, defeated, and their mission failed. Whispers grew louder, spreading fear throughout the palace. Finally, the last crate was opened. The note attached was read aloud by one of the courtiers. "Next time, send an army." The words echoed through the hall, striking fear into every alien present. Barkul's face darkened. Anger boiled inside him, but it was mixed with something he had never felt before: fear. Humans had shown him that they could not be intimidated. One human general had defeated 7 of his deadliest killers. One human general had sent a message that could not be ignored. In the palace, advisors debated. "Your Majesty," one said cautiously, "the humans, they are unlike any enemy we have faced. They do not fear death. They are clever and ruthless. And their leader, she is not ordinary. She is extraordinary." Barkul slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. "Extraordinary or not, they are still humans. They cannot match the Dominion. They are small, weak, insignificant, but," his voice lowered, "but they have something I cannot control, and that is dangerous." Back on the moon, Claire watched the stars. The message had been sent and the humans had done their part. Daniel and Laura stood beside her, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "They will think twice before sending anyone else," Daniel said. "Maybe," Claire replied, "but it does not matter what they think. Humans will survive no matter what comes. That is what matters. Our people, our colonies, our soldiers, they will be safe because we fight and we fight smart." Laura looked at her general. "Do you ever think about what comes next? More attacks? More enemies?" Claire smiled faintly. "I always think about it. The galaxy is not kind, but humans are stronger than they know, and we will face whatever comes. That is why we train, why we plan, why we fight. We do not run. We survive, and we make sure the galaxy remembers it." Meanwhile, in the Dominion, the story of the 7 assassins spread quickly. Alien worlds that had once feared humans began to whisper about their courage. Soldiers who had been trained to hunt humans now hesitated, uncertain of what to expect. Claire Morgan had become a symbol, a warning, and a legend. Barkul spent long hours alone in his chamber. He stared at the note from Claire, reading it over and over. "Next time, send an army," he muttered to himself. His advisor suggested caution, but he realized humans could not be controlled through fear. Not by assassins, not by threats, not by his power. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and dangerous. At Outpost Kestrel, life returned to a cautious normal. Civilians were brought back to their homes, and soldiers maintained patrols. Claire continued to oversee the base, training her troops, preparing for any threat. Every soldier knew the story of the assassins, and it inspired them. Courage spread through the ranks, strengthening the human presence on the frontier. One evening, Claire walked alone along the observation deck. The stars were bright, cold, and distant. She thought about the Galaxy King, about his fear, and about the humans across the galaxy. Every colony, every ship, every soldier would now know that humans did not run. They fought, and they could win even against impossible odds. Daniel joined her quietly. "General, the Dominion is talking about you." "They are afraid," Claire nodded. "Good, let them be afraid. It is the first step toward respect. Fear makes them cautious. Caution saves lives. But respect is earned. And we will earn it." Laura came up beside them. "Do you ever think about what it would have been like if we failed?" Claire shook her head. "No. Humans do not think about failure. We think about preparation, strategy, and victory. We do not run, and that is why we survive. That is why we win." The transport ships returned to human space after delivering the crates. Claire received a report that the Dominion had gone quiet. For now, the Galaxy King would reconsider his next move. Humans had shown him what happened when he underestimated them. Back at the base, soldiers continued their training, drills, and patrols. Claire worked tirelessly, planning for the future. Every lesson from the assassins' attacks was studied, every weakness noted, and every strategy refined. Humans were stronger now, not just in numbers, but in skill, courage, and determination. At night, Claire looked at the stars one more time. The moon was quiet. Outpost Kestrel stood strong. Humans had survived a deadly attack and sent a message that the galaxy could not ignore. Claire Morgan had not only defeated the assassins, but had also shown that humans were clever, fearless, and unstoppable. In the Dominion, The Galaxy King paced his chamber. He could not sleep. Thoughts of Claire haunted him. She was one human woman, but she had defeated 7 of his best assassins and sent a message he could not ignore. For the first time, he realized that humans were not just a minor threat. They were a force that could not be controlled, and he could not predict their next move. Claire returned to the observation deck one last time that night. She stood silently watching the stars. She thought about the humans across the galaxy, the soldiers, the colonies, and the civilians. She thought about the future battles, the threats, and the victories yet to come. Humans were strong. Humans were clever. Humans did not give up. And Claire Morgan would make sure the galaxy never forgot it. As the night continued, she whispered quietly to herself, "Next time, let them come. We will be ready. We always are." The stars were cold, distant, and endless. But inside, Claire burned a fire that could not be extinguished. The humans had survived the deadliest assassins in the galaxy. They had sent a message that would echo across the stars. And the Galaxy King, for the first time, knew that humans could not be intimidated, controlled, or defeated easily. Claire Morgan turned from the observation deck, ready for the challenges ahead. The galaxy had watched, the Dominion had learned, and humans had proven that they did not run. They fought, they survived, and they thrived. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Dominion would remember the note attached to the last crate. Next time, they would think carefully before sending anyone to hunt a human general. The stars stretched endlessly across the sky, silent and cold. Outpost Kestrel rested quietly on its barren moon, but inside, life was far from quiet. Soldiers moved through the halls, checking equipment, training for the next challenge, and listening for Claire Morgan's instructions. The story of the assassins had spread across human space, inspiring every colony, every ship, and every soldier. Humans now knew that courage and cleverness could turn impossible odds into victory. Claire stood on the observation deck, her eyes focused on the horizon. Daniel Brooks and Laura Hill joined her, both alert but calm. They had fought together through everything the Dominion had sent, and they had survived. More than survived, they had won. "Do you think the Galaxy King will try again?" Daniel asked quietly. Claire shook her head slowly. "He may try. The Dominion will always test us. But every attempt will teach him the same lesson. Humans do not run. We fight, we survive, and we do not forget." Laura looked out at the stars. "It feels strange, General. We have defeated assassins, sent their heads back, and the king is still out there." "Strange, yes," Claire said, her voice calm. "But humans have always faced danger. That is why we endure. That is why we grow stronger. The galaxy thinks it can control us, but it cannot. And one day they will see the full power of humanity." The next morning, a transmission arrived from High Command. Claire read it carefully. Earth wanted her to lead the next campaign. The Dominion was testing human resolve across the frontier, and humans needed a strong leader. Claire felt a quiet satisfaction. Every battle, every plan, every trap she had set had led to this moment. "I will go," she said quietly. "But first we make sure the base is ready. Our people, our colonies, and our soldiers must be prepared for whatever comes next." Daniel and Laura nodded. "We are with you, General," Daniel said. "Always." The next weeks were busy. Soldiers trained, civilians prepared, and Outpost Kestrel became a hub of activity. Claire oversaw every detail, moving calmly from station to station. She taught strategy, trained soldiers in hand-to-hand combat, and guided them through simulations of enemy attacks. Every drill, every exercise, and every plan was designed to make humans ready for the galaxy. One day, Claire walked with Daniel to a training area. "Look at them," she said, watching soldiers spar and practice. "They are learning, adapting, becoming stronger. Each day we fight, we teach the galaxy that humans do not give up. They try to scare us. We show them courage. They send killers. We send them back." Daniel smiled faintly. "And it works, General. Even the Dominion is cautious now. They fear us." "Yes," Claire said. "But fear alone is not enough. They must respect us. Humans do not just survive. We fight smart, we protect our own, and we make our victories count." Laura joined them, holding a report from the sensor teams. "General, scouts report movement near the outer colonies. Some Dominion patrols are approaching. They may be testing us again." Claire nodded. "Let them come.
We are ready."
And they will learn the same lesson they learned before. Humans fight, humans adapt, humans survive. That night, Claire returned to the observation deck alone. The stars stretched endlessly above her, cold and distant. She thought of the assassins, the traps, the victories, and the lessons. Every challenge humans had faced had taught them something, made them stronger. And every challenge would continue to do so. Somewhere far away, the Galaxy King sat on his throne, troubled and quiet. For the first time, he felt the weight of fear. Not the fear of defeat, but the fear of humans themselves. One human general had defeated 7 of his deadliest assassins and sent a warning across the stars. What else could humans do? What strength did they truly have? Back at Outpost Kestrel, Claire's soldiers gathered for a briefing. She spoke to them with calm authority. The galaxy watches us. The Dominion fears us. But we cannot stop here. Humans have faced impossible odds before. We have survived. We have fought. And now we prepare for the next challenge. Our strength lies not in numbers, not in weapons, but in our courage, our minds, and our will to protect what is ours. The galaxy may test us, but humans will always endure. Her words resonated deeply with the soldiers. They had seen their general face death, strategy, and deadly enemies. They had watched her defeat assassins stronger and faster than anyone had imagined. They understood now that humans did not run. Humans fought and humans survived. Days passed. Patrols reported minor skirmishes at the edges of human colonies, but no full-scale attacks occurred. Claire studied every report carefully. She prepared strategies, trained her soldiers, and ensured that humans were ready for whatever came next. One evening, Daniel and Laura joined her on the observation deck. "Do you ever wonder," Daniel asked, "if we can truly defeat the Dominion?" Claire looked out at the stars. "We already have. Not completely. Not yet, but we have shown them that humans cannot be controlled, cannot be intimidated, and cannot be broken. 1 general, 1 base, 7 assassins, we survived. And this is only the beginning." Laura nodded. "You make it sound easy, General, but it is not." "We have been lucky to have you lead us," Claire smiled faintly. "It is not luck. It is preparation, courage, and determination. Humans do not run. Humans fight. And every day, every challenge makes us stronger." The next morning, a small scout ship returned from the Dominion border with a message. The Galaxy King had paused all attacks and called a temporary truce. Humans had sent a clear message. They were not afraid, they were clever, and they would fight to survive. Claire read the message quietly. "The galaxy is learning," she said. "Humans do not back down. We fight, we survive, and we endure." Daniel and Laura exchanged a glance. "The king will not forget this," Daniel said. "Nor will the galaxy," Claire replied. "And that is the point. Humans must be respected, not feared. And we will continue to show that every day." The story of the assassins of Outpost Kestrel and of Claire Morgan spread across human space. Soldiers trained harder, colonies strengthened defenses, and humans everywhere felt a renewed sense of courage. The legend of Claire Morgan grew. She was not just a general. She was a symbol of human strength, cleverness, and indomitable spirit. Months passed, and the galaxy watched quietly. The Dominion paused its attacks, reconsidering every plan. Human colonies grew stronger, more organized and more prepared. Claire continued her work tirelessly, preparing humans for the future while ensuring the safety of every colony under her command. One night, Claire stood alone on the observation deck, looking at the stars. She thought of the humans across the galaxy, of the soldiers, of the civilians, and of the enemies who had tried and failed to break them. Every challenge, every attack, every enemy had only strengthened humanity. She whispered quietly to herself, "The galaxy may test us, but humans will always endure. Humans do not run. Humans fight. Humans survive. And we will continue to do so." Daniel and Laura joined her silently. "General, you have done more than anyone imagined," Laura said. "You have changed the way the galaxy sees humans," Claire nodded. "It is not about me. It is about all of us. Every soldier, every civilian, every colony. Humans are stronger than any one person. That is why we survive. That is why we fight. And that is why the galaxy will always remember us." Far away, the Galaxy King sat alone in his chamber, haunted by the message from Claire Morgan. One human woman had defeated 7 of his deadliest assassins and had sent a warning that could not be ignored. He realized that humans were not weak, not insignificant, and not afraid. Humans had something he could not control: courage, intelligence, and unbroken will. Back on the moon, Claire looked out at the stars one final time that night. The outpost Kestrel was quiet. The soldiers rested and the moon seemed peaceful. But she knew the galaxy would not remain quiet for long. There would always be new threats, new enemies, and new challenges. And humans would face them. Humans were strong. Humans were clever. Humans did not run. And Claire Morgan had proven it to the galaxy. She turned from the observation deck and walked through the base. Soldiers nodded respectfully as she passed. They had seen her courage, her planning, and her victories. They knew that humans could survive anything. In the distance, the stars continued to shine, endless and cold. But inside every human soldier, and in Claire Morgan herself, burned a fire that could not be extinguished. They had survived the deadliest assassins in the galaxy. They had sent a clear message to the Dominion. Humans do not give up, humans fight, and humans survive. And as Claire prepared for the next campaign, she smiled quietly. The galaxy had watched, the Dominion had learned, and humans had proven themselves unstoppable. For humanity, the battle was far from over. But one thing was certain. Humans would never run. Humans would never surrender, and humans would always endure. The legend of Claire Morgan and her victory over the Galaxy King's assassins would live on across the stars, inspiring humans for generations to come. The stars were cold and distant, but humanity's fire burned bright, unbroken, and eternal.